Hello and welcome back to our Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky 1 playthrough. In our last episode, we did a bit more talking. We tried to get into the palace, but the two blokes on guard were slightly above brain dead, so they just said, nah, and turned us around. We learnt that Duke Dunan is the proxy for the Queen, as she is currently extremely ill, or whatever her current cover story is. Don't know what that's about. We went and watched the final two matches of the preliminaries of the martial arts tournament, and we discovered that Zin had travelled all the way to LaBelle to participate in said martial arts tournament. Unfortunately, he was not prepared for the sudden change near the end, where it was a teams event rather than solo, but we're on our way to see if we can help him out by becoming his team now. So, yes, on we go. And let's start with a battle, shall we? Against a Marsh Chupacabra. It has 1140 HP. It is weak to fire damage. It can drop a prickly seed. A monster living in swamps. Tries to leech blood from its prey. Has petrifying tentacles. I see. And, you know, just to show that we are actually trying to get into a martial arts tournament, Estelle misses with her first shot. Yay!
Alright, we're good to go.
Let's see if she'll hit with her second. Oh, she did, look at that.
That's that then. Let's move out.
Estelle says, the Arab scenic route. I like the paved road through the forest. Neat stuff. Joshua says, I imagine the Grantslites have come here to stretch out and relax for a long time. I wonder just how long it's been here. Estelle says, well, I guess it should come as no surprise that the Queen's land is so gorgeous. Still, I can't help feeling like we've got monsters lurking around. Joshua says, nicely done. The monsters here seem to be stronger than those we fought on the way here. We're here to look for Zin. Don't let your guard down. Yes. Let's look for Zin and let our guard down, as you suggest. It's a croco shark. Sorry, a sharkodile. It has 1414 HP. It is weak to earth and fire magic. It can drop a fish fillet. A ravenous pelagic monster has a tendency to call for backup if it is wounded. Well, let's flare arrow. And Estelle can... Stone hammer. Just like that.
We're good to go! go!
Ow. Oh, this is... It's Estelle versus Curia. Oh, he's dead.
All right, we're good to go.
Nice. North or south? Because I don't think the Queen will like us marching in on her summer palace. Yes, we've fought these before.
That's that then. Let's move out.
And we have leveled up to level 25. Go us! Yay! There is an old cerulean stone monument. Okay, could you say any more than that? Apparently not. Okay. It's even more interesting that we have the exact same amount of HP. It was nasty.
All right, we're good to go.
We got some tender poultry. Alright, monsters. Monsters appeared. Oh, look at you. Claw straw. Right. Right.
We're finished.
Well, we can just do that then. That's no issue at all.
Piece of cake!
We got some beast flesh. Really? And we got a shield 3. Assuming it's a materia. There is a note inside. It reads, "Sucker!" Shield 3 is... Wind elements, that's right. Okay, Primera has 480 HP. It is not weak to any particular element. It can drop a bird egg, a monster that reflects arts with a shell covering its head. It can paralyze an opponent. Good for it. Perhaps take the shell off so you can see.
All right, we're good to go.
Oh, that's right. You're stealing our MP, aren't you? Indeed. Right, Shining Palms. Not weak to any element at all. It has 1,866 HP. Carries a T-anklet and a crest charm, whatever those are. A dastardly shining fluff, insanely quick and, well, insane, near impossible to kill. I see. Well, let's Hellgate them and... Okay, so you have to physically attack. Right. Providing you can. Yeah, no, I think we'll just flee this battle. Found a Tirabarm. Go us! Now that was the way to the Queen's Summer Palace. Go to Shadow Spear that one, see if we can plant a Tsuka in it. No, we can't. That's a shame.
That's that then. Let's move out.
You were to fire, weren't you? Yes, you were.
All right, we're good to go.
Oh, hello. Oh, Harold. We've got Eric Barwin. May as well have a critical barrage, right? It's a not critical barrage. Like that. Yep. That worked.
Alright, we're good to go.
Nice. We got a fish fillet. One. Only one. Well...
Piece of cake.
Joshua's now level 26. Estelle should be in the next battle, and Joshua has learned Evil Eye. So, let's... No, that one. Oh. Okay. No, it must just be a normal art. Craft. Nearly got it right. Or wrong. Or however.
We're good to go.
And just like that, Estelle is level 26 as well. There is an old familiar stone monument. Okay. Oh no, monsters appeared. Again. Well, we know how to deal with them, don't we, Joshua? It's the Evil Eye. Craft, medium area attack, penetrating golden glare, scares foes senseless. Well, that's nice, but black flame would be nicer. So in he goes. So that meteor's coming down. Ow. Ow! That is not nice, Joshua. That is not nice at all.
We're
we got a prickly seed, and a bird egg, and tender poultry. And we found defense 3. You've gone over your limit for this chest. Signed by the dev team. Okay. Now, because Estelle has defense 2, she should then be able to equip defense 3 and learn herself some new spells. Like Earth Wall and Earth Lance. And that's it, apparently. Oh well. And it looks like we're going to try and pay a visit to the Queen's Summer Palace then. Because there's nowhere else to go. Oh no, it looks like we do have other possibilities.
That's that then. Let's move out.
Ow. Joshua's back.
We're good to go.
Summer Palace is that way. Ooh, Sharknado. Yes, I should have put it on the first one, but I want to see how much damage it does by itself. Ooh, that is many swords. He called for backup, and it came. Oh, it came. Dinner dial. 1800 HP, no particular elemental weakness. It can drop a fish fillet. A savage pelagic monster can end the life of its prey with one snap of its jaws. Right. Yes. In which case,
You're finished.
everyone's going bye-bye. hope. Phew.
We rule.
We got 3 fish fillets.
We're good to go.
And Joshua has leveled up to level 27. We've got a prickly seed. Woman's voice cries, "No!" Estelle shouts, "You heard that, right?" Joshua says, "It came from over there. Let's go." The nun shrieks, "Help me! Someone, please help me!" The nun says, "Eh?" Estelle says, "Sister, it'll be all right." Joshua says, "Stay back, it's too dangerous." And in come the wasps. No. Good idea, sister. You go that way. Cure, sister. Because why not, right?
All right, we're good to go.
And Estelle is now level 27 as well. And Estelle has learned Heartbreak Craft. Got a save opinion for our troubles as well. Estelle says, "Whew, that was pretty tough. Are you okay, sister?" The nun says, "Yes, thank you. Who are you?" Joshua says, "We're with the Bracers Guild. We heard you scream while we were looking for someone." The nun says, "I see." Estelle asks, Are you okay? You don't look okay. Did you get hurt?" The nun says, "No, thanks to you, I'm fine. I'm Sister Ellen. I perform my duties at Grantsville Cathedral. Sister Ellen says, thank you so much for your help. Estelle laughs. You don't need to thank us. Joshua says, I must ask though, what is a clergywoman doing so far from Grantsville with their escort? Did no one accompany you? Sister Ellen says, no, came alone. Actually, we ran out of medicinal herbs for mixing at the cathedral. The shop was also out of stock, so I came here to pick some. Estelle says, that was seriously risky. There are monsters everywhere. Sister Ellen says, it was not always so. There used to be none to speak of. It seems their numbers have greatly increased in recent days. Ah. Oh, they have ever so slightly, haven't they? Estelle asks, what the heck are these things? Joshua says, they must have been attracted by the noise. Dealing with this many might be a problem. Estelle says, yeah, we need to at least get the sister to safety. A man's voice cries, yo, need a hand? Estelle says, Sin? Joshua says, thank Aidos, you're here. Zin laughs. I was wondering who it was, and here it turns out to be you guys. But why don't we save the chit-chat until we've dealt with the guests? Estelle nods. Right. Joshua says, roger that. And in we come. Yes, let's Hadouken them. Hadouken!
Savor the victory. We earned it.
We got 2 savoury opinions. Wow. Zin says, man oh man, worked up quite a sweat on that one. But honestly, I wasn't expecting to see you guys here. Didn't you have business in Zeiss? Estelle replies, oh, we handled that ages ago. Joshua says, actually, we're transferred from the Zeiss branch to Grantsville. Zin says, ah, I see. Which would mean that you managed to solve that kidnapping case. Well done! How's the redhead who got poisoned? Estelle says, oh, he's fine now. Sister Ellen says, Zin says, oh, pardon my rudeness. Whoa. Zin whispers to Joshua, hey, who's the pretty lady? Is she with you? She's single? Joshua whispers back, what? I don't know. You only just met her. Estelle sighs. Your mouths are open, guys. Do you want me to tell Killiker about this? Zin replies, I'm just making an objective observation. And what does Killiker have to do with this anyway? Sister Ellen says, I truly appreciate you all coming to my assistance. You've saved my life. Zin says, no, please think nothing of it. Just doing what comes naturally for a chivalrous man. Sister Ellen says, oh my. Estelle whispers, oh please. He's a total sucker for a pretty face, isn't he? Joshua whispers back, so it appears. A man's voice calls, you there, what are you doing? Estelle says, what? Special Ops Soldier 1 says, you're 4 people in an otherwise deserted area discussing what appears to be a confidential topic. highly suspicious behaviour. Special Ops Soldier 2 says, I think you're terrorists. Estelle asks, what? Who are you calling a terrorist? If anyone's acting suspicious here... Joshua says, we're with the Bracers Guild, Gransel branch. We came to the aid of the sister here, who was under attack by some monsters. Special Ops Soldier 1 asks, what? Special Ops Soldier 2 asks, Bracers? Sister Ellen says, this gentleman speaks the truth. I came here to gather herbs when those creatures attacked me. Zin adds, and on a related note, I'm also a bracer. I'll be facing your buddies in the ring later. Special Ops Soldier 1 says, Calvardian martial arts. Ah, you're that guy in the martial arts competition that fights solo, right? Special Ops Soldier 2 says, you've definitely got the muscles of a prize fighter. Special Ops Soldier 1 says, I'll leave you be just this once. But the Arab Royal Villa is close by. Wanderers and sightseers are not welcome. Special Ops Soldier 2 says, also, sister, I think we should escort you back to Gransel now. You've already been enough trouble as it is, from what I can see. Sister Ellen says, oh, but I... Estelle cries, oh, for the love of... You've been nothing but obnoxious from the moment you started talking. Joshua says, Estelle, shush. We'll take care to avoid the Royal Villa, sirs. You have our apologies for any inconvenience we've caused. Special Ops Soldier 1 says, very well. In the future, however, I would advise you to know your place. Mouthing off to the wrong people can be hazardous. Special Ops Soldier 2 says, well, come on, sister, let's go. Sister Ellen says, all right. Thank you again for your help. And off she goes with the two Special Ops soldiers. Estelle grumbles, wahoo, how? Who the hell do they think they are? Zin says they're Special Ops soldiers affiliated with the Royal Army's Intelligence Division. Skillful to be sure, but their strongest suit is their sneakiness. Estelle says their only suit, if you ask me. Wait a second, how do you know them, Zin? Zin replies, I ran into their team at the martial arts competition. I was introduced to them. Estelle whispers to Joshua, they're actually fighting? What would some spy types be doing participating in something as public as a tournament? Joshua whispers back, I guess they didn't feel it necessary to conceal their identities. Zin says, well, we should get back to the city before they decide that they'd rather fight. Alright, what brings you two here anyway? Estelle says, oh yeah, duh. Actually, we were looking for you. Zin asks, why's that? Joshua says, we had a favour we needed to ask. About that martial arts competition. And we are back at the Sunnybell Inn. Zin asks, so that's how it is, eh? Tell me something though, why do you want to take part in the tournament? Estelle says, well, I've been kind of itching to do something like this ever since I caught those preliminary matches. You know, really throw down with some tough opponents. Joshua says, we're travelling all over the kingdom to help prepare us to become full-fledged bracers. This would be the perfect opportunity to test ourselves and see if our training has paid off. Zin says, alright, let's do it. We can get you registered tomorrow before the tourney begins, so no worries on that score. Estelle cries, woohoo! Hey, are you sure you're okay with giving us an answer so quickly? Zin says, hey, it'll give me a chance to see just how skilled you are. You just watch my back. Estelle blushes, roger that, thank you, Zin. I'm going to give it everything I've got. Joshua says, "We appreciate it." Zin says, "It's no bother. I had been planning to enter as a solo competitor, but I suppose that having some help could improve my chances of overall victory." Estelle says, "Naturally, once I'm in the ring, that championship's in the bag." Joshua says, "We're still one person short of the requirement, though. Since we have to face 4-person teams, one more would give us the best possible odds." Estelle says, "All right, Hey, I bet we could beat them without a 4th. Zin says, "No, if you really want to come out on top, you have to be prepared. Our battle is waged well before the first blow is struck." Estelle says, well, yeah, I guess. I sure wish Shahara were with us. That'd keep my spirits up." "Hey, do you suppose we could ask Elnan to try and get in touch with her and relent?" Joshua says, "I think she's kind of busy at the moment. Since Dad's not there and we're not there, that branch is pretty short-handed." Estelle frowns. "Yeah, that's true. Isn't there someone who can partner up with us?" Cue the spoony bard. A man's voice, which I presume is someone we quite well know. "And here I was, thinking you might never see your way clear to asking." Estelle says, "Enter the pervert, stage left. Don't tell me you're hiding out upstairs." Joshua asks, "Were you listening in on our conversation?" Olivier laughs. "Indeed, I heard every tragic syllable. Therefore, it seems the appropriate time to make an appearance." Estelle protests, "Hey, who asked you to sit down?" Zin says he was the one who was playing the piano before, wasn't he? You know him? Estelle groans. "Replace no with can't get rid of, and that about covers it." Joshua says, "And we haven't even known him for that long either." Olivier says, "Many call me Olivier Lenheim, the wandering minstrel from Erebonia. It was Estelle and Joshua's pleasure to make my acquaintance on an earlier case, and ever since we seem to keep running into each other." Estelle protests, "Quit trying to trick him. Zin, don't listen to him." Zin says, "I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but there's no harm in introductions, I suppose. Zin Vathek, or Vatek? Vathek? However you want to pronounce it, Vath. We'll go with Vath. Zin Vath, bracer from Calvard and perpetual traveller in the path of Wushu. I've enjoyed your piano playing." Olivier laughs. "You do me great honour, good sir. I've also heard tales of your prowess in the preliminary matches. Tell me, did you truly defeat a team of 4 entirely on your own?" Zin says, "All I can say is that I had the good fortune of them all being rank amateurs." "So what does a wandering minstrel, as you say, want with us?" Estelle shouts, Wait, hold it!" Joshua says, "Olivier, I'd like for you to verify something for me. By any chance, do you have a lot of spare time on your hands?" Olivier says, "And you say that I haven't changed, good Joshua. You were ever one for the pointed questions. It's been nearly a month since I came to Gransel. I've travelled the length and breadth of the city, enjoying all the sights except the castle. Those boorish soldiers would not allow me to pass. Yet, to be certain, there are other places that I'd like to visit, but I could not bear to leave with the birthday celebration so close." Estelle pouts. "In other words, you're bored." Olivier asks, "Now what is this talk of being a man short that I happen to overhear? I have heard that the winner of this competition will be invited to an extravagant dinner party. Surely this can only be divine providence." Estelle sighs. Joshua says, "Yeah, pretty much what we figured you were thinking." Olivier says, "I had in fact wondered if you might invite me to join you in this tournament." Zin asks, "You okay with that?" Estelle says, "Wait, Zin, it's not that simple. I mean, you don't even know if he's any good in a fight." Zin says, "His speciality is orbital firearms, right? I think the team would be pretty well served by a broad range of attacks and tactics." Estelle says, "What?" Olivier says, "Oh my, this is a surprise. I presume you could tell from my walk and the musculature of my shoulders." Zin says, "That, and the way your eyes move. The martial artist and swordsman each have distinct ways that they track their surroundings. You track for a specific point on any possible target. It's characteristic of someone who's familiar with small arms." Estelle says, "Whoa, that's awesome." Joshua says, "I see. It certainly makes sense." Olivier says, "I'll have to be more careful in the future." Olivier says, "I'll have to be more careful in the future then." We have to get his voice right after all. "And in your eyes, do I pass muster for participating in the tournament with you?" Zin says, "Yeah, I think so. Welcome aboard." Estelle says, "I'm not sure I like this." Joshua says, "Thank you for your assistance, Olivier." It's night time outside now, and just Estelle and Joshua are by themselves. Estelle says, I think I'm going to burst. I can't believe those guys are actually drinking after a meal like that. They must fill up from the legs." Joshua says, "Well, Zin's got the constitution for it, and Olivier is just kind of a glutton. As long as it doesn't interfere with Zin's performance at the tournament tomorrow, I think it'll be fine." Estelle says, "Yeah, I guess worrying about it won't do any good." Joshua asks, "You want to go to the hotel on the North Block? Our room should be ready by now." And off we go to the Hotel Rowan Ball. Boom, bum, boo. Fritz says, "Good evening. Welcome to the Hotel Rowan Ball. Were you looking to stay for the night?" Estelle says, "Yes, we're with the Bracers Guild." Joshua says, "We were told that a room would be ready for us. Can you please confirm that?" Fritz says, "So that was for you two. Yes, we do have a reservation for the both of you." Estelle says, "Phew, that's a relief." Joshua says, "We'll have to say thanks to Elnan." Fritz says, "Estelle and Joshua, correct? I'm sorry to ask, but may I please see your identification as Bracers?" Estelle says, "Oh, just a second." Estelle showed the clerk her Bracers notebook. Fritz says, "Yes, that will be fine. And this is for you. We received room 202's key. Just take the stairs up and it'll be on your left. If you have need of anything, please contact the front. And just remember, we ask the questions." On the left. Up and on the left this should be room 202, correct? Estelle says 202. Yep, this is our room. Estelle says, "Hey, nice room. Look, you can see the grand arena from here." Joshua says, "Wow, no kidding. They really didn't skimp on anything here. I guess we can use this as our base of operations, so to speak, at least until the competition's over. Estelle whispers to herself, so Joshua and I have to share this room for a while? What am I thinking? Bad thoughts, bad thoughts! Joshua asks, Estelle? Estelle says, yes? Yes? Joshua says, it just occurred to me that this might be a little weird. It shouldn't be, there are two beds and they're not beside each other. Joshua goes on, but, we're family, right? Estelle asks, huh? Joshua says, I might not be as dependable as Dad is, and I'm not as good a listener as Shara, but still, I'm your brother and I want you to know that I'm there if you need support. If there's ever anything bothering you, I just want you to know that you can always come to me. Estelle says, oh. Joshua says, I've been getting kind of a weird feeling from you lately. If I've got this all wrong, then I'm sorry. Estelle sighs. You're just so... you. As smart as you are, sometimes you can be so clueless. Joshua says, what? Estelle says, thank you, but you don't need to worry. I know I've probably been acting kind of strange lately. It's not all that serious or painful. I'm just trying to sort my feelings out. So I'll be okay. Just as long as you watch out for me. Joshua says, I see. Okay then, I'll keep my worries in check. And in return, you let me know when you've taken care of whatever's bothering you. I won't ask you to tell me anything you're not ready to yet. Estelle blushes. Okay, once I've everything straight, I'll be glad to tell you what's on my heart. Mind. Joshua says, huh? Estelle says, nothing. It's still kind of early, but do you want to turn in? Not that she's trying to change the subject entirely or anything. Estelle goes on, everything that's been going on has worn me out. Joshua says, yeah, we do have that match tomorrow. Let's get our stuff put away and then get some shut-eye. Zin says, good morning, young ones. Estelle says, good morning, Zin. Joshua says, thank you for coming to meet us. Zin says, hey, it's no problem. I've been up anyway, preparing for the match today. Between checking out the weaponsmith and visiting all the stores, I've had a busy morning. Estelle says, being prepared means no regrets for you, huh? By the way, where's Olivier? Olivier says, good morrow, my dear companions. He enters the hotel and sniffs a little bit. What is that aroma? Battle? Conflict? No. Victory! Oh, what an enchanting perfume this time of day. Estelle asks, do you just deliberately time your entrances like this? Joshua says, good morning, Olivier. Zin says, morning. Looks like we're all here then. What say we go ahead and get moving? Estelle says the tournament doesn't start up again until noon. It's still early, so what are we going to do to kill time? Zin says, for starters, I think we should go to the equipment shop and get all of our gear in order. Then perhaps do a little bit of monster hunting to keep us focused. Olivier says, I see. A little warm-up then? Joshua says, some practice at working as a team might do us some good. After all, we've never all fought at each other's sides before. Estelle says, I'm up for it, let's go. And once we're ready, we can head straight to the grand arena. Okay. Oh, I see. That's... Yep, no, that would make sense. He's already got defense too. Okay, we're heading south, aren't we? Okay, what can we get? Well, we don't have enough to get much of anything, if I'm being honest. So let's see. And Olivier is all open. Zin is all open. Joshua's all open. Estelle is all open. Right, quartz. Still don't have enough for Alright, so we're going to right. All quartz are okay in here. Okay, what we will do maybe I can get a cast 2 for Joshua. going to give you move 2, I believe. Cast 2. Now, Joshua, cast 2. Cast 1 into cast 2. Just like that. Estelle says, wait, Joshua, wasn't Chloe coming to the capital right about now? Joshua replies, now that you mention it, she did say she'd meet us before the birthday celebration started. She should definitely be here by now. Estelle says, Elnan, there wasn't a girl about our age named Chloe who came around asking for us, was there? We'd promised to meet up here. Elnan says, Chloe, you say? No, I'm afraid no one by that name has been here. Estelle sighs. Oh, raspberries. Maybe we should have asked where she was staying. Joshua says, she mentioned some rich relatives. Though that's not much of a lead, I suppose. Elnan says, I'm sure she's simply running late and will try to contact you shortly. If she comes by, I'll be sure to let you know immediately. Good for you. And we don't have anything to report. And there are no new requests either. Stell's 27, Joshua's level 27, Olivier's 30, and Zen is 33. So we need to equip Olivier. With a white bracelets. And a silver earrings, and then Sim can have a black bangle. And a jeweled ring.
That's that then. Let's move out.
Good verdict, though. Doesn't look like we'll get any additional levels for Estelle and Joshua. Not in any kind of hurry, anyway. So let's just head to the Colosseum. the arena. And see what we can do. Zin says, "Good morning." Leafa says, "Oh, Zin, good morning. Do you feel ready for the next match at noon?" Zin says, "I do, and I'd like to finish my registration if I may. Can you help me with that?" Leafa says, "Absolutely I can. When I first heard the news, I thought to myself, how is he going to fight all by himself?" Leafa says, "Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you the ones from yesterday?" Estelle chuckles. "Hey, how's it going?" Joshua says, "We'd like to register for the tournament as auxiliary members of Zin's team." Leafa asks, "Would you now? Then we'll need you to fill out these forms, please." Estelle, Joshua and Olivier filled out the required paperwork. Next to his signature, Olivier detailed a red rose for flavour. Leafa says, "So you two are members of the Bracers Guild, but according to your profile, sir, wandering lyric troubadour extraordinaire, ambassador of peace and hearts most fair. And there's a note under it, trill the extra E and don't spare the spittle." Olivier laughs. "My dear, you need not bother with that postscript. Your diction sings. If you wish to know more, however, I'd be happy to teach you the proper reading. Perhaps over tea?" Estelle frowns. "Yeah, that's enough of that, thanks. You can just burn that application with fire." Joshua says, "Not literally, of course. Thank you for your help." Leafa says, "You're very welcome. I finalised your team register for the tournament. I list Zin as team captain with 3 auxiliary members, Estelle, Joshua and Olivier. Please remember there can be no changes or substitutions." Zin says, "Understood." Estelle says, "Feel like it's all about to break loose, doesn't it?" "Oh yeah, do we know who our opponents are going to be?" Leafa says, "We've already determined the pairings, but to discourage wagering, we do not announce them until just before the match is to begin. You can guess your opponents just prior to the match, though, by taking note of who else is sharing your ready room." Joshua says, "So opposing teams are kept in opposing rooms, I take it." Leafa says, "That is correct. Here, this is for you and your teammates. We have received a registry card. Please show that to the staff before you enter the arena. And that should just about cover everything. Best of luck to you all. Malcolm dead." "Yes, madam." The receptionist says, "Your card, please." Part of the tournament, I see. Please note that tournament participants are asked to remain within the arena's walls until the end of the day's matches. Have you made all of the necessary preparations for a day of hot action?" I believe we have, yes." The receptionist says, Excellent. Your waiting room is the blue team room just inside the hall on the right. Fight well." Clark says, "Please wait in your room for your names to be called." It should be down here, I'd say. Reserved for guests of honour, no unauthorised personnel. As you wish. Joshua says, "The blue team is on the right, so this must be the waiting room." Zin says, "Yeah, has to be." Olivier says, well, why don't we just relax until it's time for the match? Estelle asks, do you ever do anything other than relaxing? A young man's voice calls out, look at you guys, all calm and collected. Estelle says, it's you. Rocco says, we've really got to stop meeting like this. Rice laughs, too bad for you, huh? Estelle ponders, who are you guys again? Dean says, we're the Ravens. We had all of Rouen pissing their collective pants in fear of us. Rocco says, don't tell us you forgot. Estelle grins, guys, I was kidding. I knew you guys were in Gransel yesterday to watch your buddies fight in the preliminaries. And you're back again today to pick a fight with us. Didn't you learn your lesson the last time? Dean laughs. Rice laughs. Rocco laughs. Estelle says, okay, that's just creepy. Joshua asks, are you planning to participate in the no-holds-barred matches? Estelle asks, huh? Dean asks, hey, what's with the shocked look? Rice says, we won the prelims and made it here fair and square. Rocco says, I don't remember you guys showing your faces before we'd made it halfway through either. Estelle says, well, how do you like that? Not bad for amateurs. Must have been some special training, huh? Dean says, ugh. Rocco asks, what the hell? Estelle says, I had you figured for just another bunch of monks, but you've got some real spirit to you. Estelle says, nice going. Rice says, well, it was nothing, really. Dean says, don't be taken in by that act. Rocco says, anyway, you beat us before. We ain't going to miss our chance to get back at you. Estelle laughs, anytime you're ready. Though I guess not today if you guys are in the blue team room with us. Dean says, well, we're supposed to be on the other side, but... Estelle goes on, but you couldn't wait to confront your opponents, could you? Well, best of luck. May the better team win. They all ponder what to say next. Estelle says, huh? Dean says, hey, let's get out of here. Rocco says, yeah, the mood's all off now. Rice says, let's go get something to eat before the fight. And off they toddle. Estelle asks, what the hell? That's just rude. Did I say something wrong? Joshua says, no, not at all. You really are something else. Estelle gasps, huh? Zin laughs. Well, don't worry about that. Olivier says, I'm impressed that she's so nonchalant about her own talents. Estelle frowns. Did I miss something? Joshua laughs. Don't worry about it. Come on, let's just get in the waiting room and wait for our match to start. And we're out in the Pokemon Stadium again. Now we're back in the preparation room. Estelle says, almost time to start. My heart feels like it's going to break right out of my chest. Joshua says, calm down. All we have to do is wait patiently until it's our turn. They'll call for us. Estelle says, that doesn't calm me down at all. Grant says, looks like you're in. Estelle says, yep, sure are, thanks to you. Grant says, show us what you can do, and may the best team win. Annalise says, hey you newbies. Estelle says, hi Annalise. Adelaide says, looks like you got into Zin's team. Not too shabby. I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got. Kurt says, hey champs, how are you feeling? Estelle says, a little nervous and kind of panicky to be honest. Kurt says, if you get nervous, you'll start taking short, shallow breaths, and that's bad news. Force yourself to breathe slow and deep, and you'll find yourself feeling like a whole new person. Estelle says, got it. Shallow breaths. I mean, deep breaths, deep breaths. She inhales and exhales. Now that actually helped, I think. Thanks, Kurt. Kurt laughs. No problem. Kana says, hey Estelle, since we're in the same room, that means we won't be pitted against each other in today's matches. Too bad, huh? Estelle says, yeah it is, but that just means the fun gets to last longer for you, right? Kana says, if nothing else, you sure do know how to trash talk. Yes, we do. First Lieutenant Barron says, without General Morgan here, we all need to give 110%, and we absolutely will, so you'd better believe you'll be seeing us again. Private Beyond says, Border Garrison, not to be messed with for sure. But we're not about to lose. Private McCrea. Private McDonald says, this tournament is where we military and you bracers alike get to shamelessly display some prowess. Shake what you've got up there and don't lose an eye, because that would really hurt. Specialist Gorg says, don't you dare to break my focus or I will kick you. Okay. First Lieutenant Nial says, so you're bracers, huh? You guys are pretty good for your age. May the best team win. Private Isaac says, I can't afford to hold back, not against any of them. Private Zane says, all we can do is our best, and our best is all we can do. Here's where we show whether or not all that practice paid off. Specialist Taris says, is it our turn yet? I'm dying to do some killing. That's not psychopathic at all. Olivier says, I'm in the moments just after the curtain rises, but before the diva sounds her first refrains. Quick, hand me a glass that I may catch this feeling and drink deep its bitter malt. Sin says, no matter how you look at it, these are some strong teams. Glad I came to LaBelle. This place seems right up my alley. Joshua says maybe talking to the other teams will help calm some nerves. After all, we're not fighting anyone in this room today, so we can all get along just fine. And we already have. Anyway, the chairman's voice says, we must apologise to everyone for the long wait, but we will now commence with the no-holds-barred matches. Chairman's voice continues. Without further ado, let's announce the fight card for the first bout. Southside, Blue Team, Bracer Guild, Gransel Branch, Team Captain is Kurt. Northside, Red Team, Royal Army Assault Cavalry, Team Captain is First Lieutenant Jed. Kurt says, okay, we're up. Grant says the Assault Cavalry is made up of the best men of the uniform. They won't be easy to beat. Estelle says, good luck, guys. Kana says, you just leave the heavy lifting to us. Adelaide says, let's go. And off they go out to the Pokemon Arena. The referee says, we now begin the first match of the no-holds-barred tournament. Both teams go to your starting places. There's not much cavalry in that cavalry, is all I'll say. The referee says, ready? Begin!
my art. Not as you appear.
The referee says KO. The winner is Kurt's team. Estelle cries, "All right, they did it." Zin says, "Lebel's braces are not to be trifled with. They all demonstrated great skill." Olivier says, "Indeed, they may be few in number, but one of them could likely take on 1,000 foes." Joshua says, "If we have to face them in a match, we'll have a tough time of it." Estelle says, "Great match, you guys," as they come back in. Zin says, "Yo, nice fight." Kurt laughs. It's an honor to be told so by Zin the Immovable. Grant says, "It feels different from the prelim matches, much harder to stay focused." The chairman's voice says, "Here's the lineup for the second match. Southside, Blue Team, from the Calvard Republic, captained by martial arts master Zin. Northside, Red Team, Team Raven, captained by Dean." Estelle says, "That's us." Joshua says, "And look who we're facing." Olivier laughs. "Facing such louts ought to prove most interesting indeed." Zin says, "All right, to the arena." And out we go. Dean laughs. "Never thought we'd get a chance at revenge so soon." Rice says, "I guess the goddess smiles on everyone at least once. You may have found our weaknesses before, but we've been through some intense training since then. Time to let you see the results." Estelle laughs. "Well, you've got spirit at least. I hope you're not expecting us to take it easy on you." Olivier whispers, "Is it just me, or is Estelle a little livelier than usual? I'd almost call her attitude manly." Joshua whispers back, "If she hears you saying that, I'm not helping you." Zin says, "All right, it's about time." Referee says, "This begins the second no-holds-barred match of the competition. Both teams go to your starting places." Ready? Begin! Oh, we are actually fighting this. Oh. Okay. 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 No. No. All right. Yes, you have been busy, haven't you? $3,209 HP. Right, let's attempt to remove a few. Oh, we're rumbling apparently. Whoa, what the? Yeah, we'll tear it bomb ourselves. Just to, just to make sure we survive. Tyrell's in. Right. This is annoying, to say the least.
Let me show you the true essence of beauty. Take that.
Innocence here. Ha! Ha!
when they can all revive each other with full HP. Oh, he died to poison. Lucky us. The referee says KO. The winner is Zin's team. Dean is out of breath. Damn it, lost again. Race says he's too damn tough. Rocco says shit, 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 shit. Estelle says, now, don't get so discouraged. To be honest, I'm impressed. You gave us a good run for our mirror. Joshua says, I agree. You're a lot stronger than when we fought you at the Varun Lighthouse. Dean asks, really? Rice says, I don't really remember it too well. Zin says, I wouldn't know, but it seems we all gave it all we had. I think we can all return to the waiting rooms with our heads held high. We're back in the waiting room, and Kana laughs. I never thought those delinquents would ever fight that hard for anything. Just goes to show you that change is the only constant in life. Grant says, I watched the fight closely. It wasn't bad. Not bad at all. Olivier laughs. Oh, why thank you. I like to think that their change of heart is born of a desire to follow my shining moral example. Annalise says, wow, you really think so? Estelle sighs, would you quit with that bullshit? You don't even know their situation. You don't even really know who we're talking about. Olivier says, the moment one falls in love is quick as infinity itself. Joshua sighs, you're not normal, are you? The chairman's voice says, here's the lineup for the third match. South Side, Blue Team. From the Royal Army's 3rd Regiment, captained by First Lieutenant Nial. First Lieutenant Nial says, okay, that's our cue. Let's show him how it's done, people. Private Isaac says, aye aye sir. And off they go. Chairman's voice says, North Side, Red Team. The Capua family, aka the Sky Pirates, captained by Don Capua. Estelle says, huh? Joshua says, the Capuas? Olivier says, that name rings a few bells. The chairman's voice says, ladies and gentlemen, we have a unique match for you up next. Somewhat notorious, always in the news, they are the Capua family, the Sky Pirates who terrorized the Bose region. Today they present themselves to you in a physical display of contrition, eager to fight in a fair and honest manner. In doing so, they hope to atone for all the problems they've caused the kingdom's citizens. This wish to make amends is foremost in their hearts as they take the field. I'm sure it is. And thanks to the sponsorship of Duke Dunan, they are here to show you that remorse. We hope you enjoyed this shocking matchup and first ever public apology in tournament history. Zin says, you know, I somehow get the feeling that this new team play rule was enacted so that those criminals could participate. Olivier laughs. The Duke is certainly a generous man. Estelle says, this is no laughing matter. Joshua says, I kind of expected something crazy, but this is just... The referee says, can I have your attention, please? We now begin the third match of the No Holds Barred tournament. Both teams go to your starting places. The referee says, take your positions. Begin! The referee says KO. The winner is Don's team. Estelle sighs. They won. Joshua says, well, they are pretty strong. But if worst comes to worst and they actually win the championship, then what? Olivier laughs. Would they actually invite pirates into the castle for a dinner party? Oh, to be a fly on the wall for that little soiree. Estelle says, we need to make sure that it doesn't come to that. Zin says, regardless, this means that we have a tough opponent to deal with. First Lieutenant Nial says, damn it, I can't believe that those thugs got the better of us. First Lieutenant Barron says, well, don't get so depressed. They're used to fighting as a group, that's all. First Lieutenant Nial says it's not their strength so much as our weakness, which means we need to do some more training when we get back to our unit. The chairman's voice says, here's the lineup for the fourth match. South side, blue team. From the border garrison, the 7th Regiment, captained by First Lieutenant Barron. First Lieutenant Nial says, looks like you're up. This is the last fight of the day, so you better make it count. First Lieutenant Barron says, understood. We'll give them 12 kinds of hell, army style. Let's do this, people! All privates say, yes, sir, and off they march. The chairman's voice says, north side, red team. From the Royal Army's Intelligence Division, captained by 2nd Lieutenant Lawrence. Estelle says, hey, it's them! Joshua says, Lieutenant Lawrence, wasn't he the one who... The referee says, we now begin the fourth match of the no-holds-barred tournament. Both teams go to your starting places. Take your positions. Begin! Well, that seemed decidedly one-sided. The referee says KO. The winner is Lawrence's team. Estelle says, holy, that was a massacre. Zin whistles, impressive. Given that they were a man short in the prelims, I figured they'd have another join in. I guess they had an ace in the hole. Olivier says, Estelle, Joshua and I are also aces in that same hole then, since we too missed the preliminaries. Oh, perhaps that bodes well for us. The trick is to come late. Joshua says, that fighting style. Estelle says, huh? Joshua, what's wrong? Joshua says, it can't be, but... Estelle says, Joshua? Joshua? Joshua says, oh, I'm okay, no need to worry. I was just kind of taken aback at how good that guy's swordsmanship is. Estelle asks, really? Olivier says, I'm impressed. You've got quite a good eye, Joshua. The chairman's voice says, and that concludes our first day of full contact matches. Today's winners were Kurt's team, Don's team, Zin's team, and Lawrence's team. Who among them will be crowned the King of Fighters? Stay with us to find out. No, the King of Fighters is a different franchise, just saying. We received 20,000 in a cash prize. Lucky us. Zin says, alright then, 2 days down, 2 days to go. I don't know what'll happen tomorrow, but we're moving on to the next round. Estelle says, of course. Seriously though, we've got some really tough opponents left to face. Our fellow guild members plus the Sky Pirates. Joshua says, true, we can't afford to let our guard down. Olivier says, oh come now, what truly is there for us to be concerned over? We have built this dream together to stand strong forever. Nothing is going to stop us now. Estelle pouts. My fist is going to stop you if you don't stop spouting nonsense and take this seriously. Zin says, well, positive thinking isn't a bad thing. We've got to keep each other's spirits up from today, so that we'll be ready for tomorrow. So in the interests of that, I'm going to the bar. What about you guys? Olivier says, for my part, I would most graciously join you. Joshua whispers to Estelle, we should go report in at the guild. They might have some new info on our assignment. Estelle says, yeah, maybe. Well, whispers back, yeah, maybe. Estelle says, sorry, Jen. Sorry, Zin. Jin, oy. Sorry, Zin. We'll have to take a rain check. Zin says, alright, goodbye for now then. We'll meet up again tomorrow morning in the hotel lobby. Olivier says, au revoir, my dear pussycats. And off they go. Estelle says, okay, so, off to the guild. Joshua says, right. And it wouldn't hurt to try getting some information from around town, too. Estelle asks, like, what exactly? A young man's voice says, check you two out. You got time to just stand around? Estelle says, oh, hi there. You guys must be tired from today. Dean says, don't start acting all cocky on us. This last time we didn't have a whole lot of time to train properly. Next time though, we'll win. Rice says, huh? You want to do this again? Estelle laughs. It's fine. If we had another chance, we'd be happy to have a rematch. Joshua says, hey Estelle, don't you think you're being a little hasty? Estelle asks, oh, what's the big deal? If we keep up with our own training, we'll be fine. Dean says, aren't you the optimistic little twerp? Well, here, take this. We have received Gransel's sewer key A. Estelle asks, what's this? Joshua says, looks like an extremely old key. Rocco says, it'll open up that barred-off passage in the west block. It leads to a huge underground sewer system. Rice said, we got that key by pure chance, so we go down there every day to explore. There's a ton of really tough monsters in there, so you'd better make sure you're absolutely ready. Estelle says, well, Dean says, hey, don't get us wrong. Losing to you just pissed us off, is all. Listen, you'd better win that tournament. We won't accept any less. We've said what we came to say, so we'll see you later. Estelle says, okay, so what was that about? Joshua says, I think they were trying to show us that they're rooting for us. Maybe they're telling us to use the sewers to train ourselves before the big match. Estelle says, I guess that makes sense. Maybe they really have turned over a new leaf. Joshua laughs. Maybe they just like your manly nature. After all, you are the most violent person I've ever met. Estelle says manly, violent. What are you trying to say, Joshua? Well, whatever. I say we should accept whatever goodwill is offered. Joshua says, it's late though. I think we should wait before we go underground. We can give it a try before tomorrow's match. Estelle nods. Okay. Let's stop into the guild then and report into Elnan. Off to the guild we go. Laoni said the RC is being held in the port by the army, but the Royal Guard is still showing up in Zeiss and attacking the capital. Indeed. To the guild. Elnan says, Estelle, Joshua, congratulations on your victory. Estelle says, thank you, thank you. Wait, how'd you know already? Elnan replies, Grant already reported in. So how was it? Joshua says, honestly, it felt more like surviving than actually winning. Joshua explained that there were sky pirates and special ops teams. Elnan says, I see. I'd heard that the sky pirates were given special permission to participate, but I must admit I'm surprised to hear about the special ops, particularly that their leader is so powerful. Estelle says the team was pretty tough, but that commander was like on a different level altogether. He moved like a cat and was swinging that huge sword around like it was a toy. I could barely believe he was human the way he was fighting. Joshua says, yeah, what she said. Elnan, what do you know about Second Lieutenant Lawrence's personal history? Elnan says, nothing, I'm afraid. The Intelligence Division is new, and Colonel Richard suppressed all information regarding them since their official inception. That includes information on the Lieutenant. Joshua says, drat. Estelle asks, Joshua, you seem pretty caught up with that guy in red. Is there something we should be watching out for? Joshua says, no, we just need to know who we're facing, that's all. Anything that can give us an edge in the tournament. Estelle says, good point. Knowing your enemy is the best way to beat him, after all. Elnan says, actually, this doesn't concern the Lieutenant exactly. Today at noon, a military patrol vessel arrived at the landing port. Its passenger was the Colonel's right-hand woman, Captain Amalthea. Joshua says, that is news. Estelle asks, Captain Amalthea, is that the sneaky fox-faced woman? That witch who used Tita to threaten the Professor? Elnan says she's travelling through all of the major cities. Her arrival was unexpected and caused all civilian airship lines to run late. Estelle says, yeah, that doesn't bode well. Joshua says, a tour of the major cities? Sounds like a cover for her to hunt down the Professor. Elnan says, we've got all branches investigating her trip very carefully. We'll let you know as soon as we learn anything. You two just focus on the tournament for now. Estelle says, you bet. Joshua says, thanks so much for all your help. Well, then says, Estelle, Joshua, will you guys like a drink tea? Estelle says, we're underage, you know. Zin says, what's that? You guys don't want to drink? I say ring instead of drink. Joshua says, well, this is just prime. Olivier laughs. Why, the night's festivities have only just begun. There is Selge to go before we sleep. Estelle asks, where is he putting all of that food? Does he have like a vortex in his belly? A man's voice says, so you're finally back. You sure know how to keep a fella waiting. Estelle says, hey, I know that voice. Joshua says, good to see you, Nial. Estelle asks, how have you been? Don't tell me you came here just to see little old us. Nial says, okay then, I won't tell you. I'm doing interviews with the tawny contestants for my article. I figured you folks would be my best bet for getting the inside story. I was hoping I'd get a chance to ambush you into an interview at the hotel. Estelle sighs. You're way too good at your job, you know that? Joshua says, well, it's not that we're not glad to see you, but this is you we're talking about. What's your angle? Estelle says, hunting for the next big story, I'll bet. Niall laughs. You wound me to the quick, kid. I've been a bit like a big brother to you. You scratch your back, I scratch yours. No, that didn't make sense. I've been like a big brother to you. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's more like it. And now you think of me as nothing but a news hound? Estelle says, we know you're nothing but a news hound. Joshua says, not to mention the age difference is a little much for us to think of you as a brother. Niall says, oh, shut it. If that's how you're going to be, then I'm leaving. You're coming with me. Joshua says, Estelle says, I wouldn't mind a little night air before bed. Niall says, good, we're halfway there then. There's this quaint little eatery right next door to where I work. It's the perfect place to sit and talk. And it seems like we're going there. Coffee house, barrel? Something. Estelle says, hey, this is a nice little place. Feels less like a bar and more like a coffee shop. Joshua says, that might explain the smell of coffee. Niall says, I hear the owner started up this place as a hobby. The brew here is amazing. Plus, he took some advice from someone later on and added curry rice to the menu. Curry with authentic spices. I just like the atmosphere out here though, personally. Have a seat, let's get this interview started. Estelle says, not so fast. We were just in that big match, so we're pretty damned hungry, and I'm not about to smell food without eating food. Joshua says, dinner does sound lovely right about now, actually. Niall grumbles, damn kids. Fine, I'll buy you dinner, and while you're stuffing your faces, you can give me the exclusive on any news you've found. Estelle says, and there's the pitch. Joshua asks, by the way, isn't Dorothy with you today? Niall says, nah, I gave her something else to work on. Now, come on, inside with the both of you. Estelle says, the food in here sure is spicy. Tasty, though. Nothing beats ribs covered in sauce with some potatoes that are cooked just right. Joshua says, I like a good cup of coffee after a meal myself. I've always heard it's difficult to make it well. Niall says, way to eat up a man's paycheck, you guys. I don't know how I'm supposed to afford all this on a reporter's salary. Estelle says, now, it was a great meal, and great meals don't come cheap. Okay, now, you were saying something about an interview? Niall says, I could write a story about extortion. Moving on, there ain't been much to confirm that the Queen's really taken ill after the guardsman went all terrorist. What I need is some clear info that hasn't been combed over and cleaned up by the army. Estelle and Joshua seem struck dumb. Niall continues, I heard a little from Dorothy about the kidnapping in Zeiss. Look, let me get right to the point. I know you've got Colonel Richard by the proverbial tail. I just need to know how hard you're holding on. Estelle says, way to be blunt there. Joshua says, sounds like you've already figured out an awful lot. Niall says, I knew he was crooked. Before that interview in our magazine bumped up his popularity, he wasn't really well known or worth paying attention to. Seems like this guy's been planning his moves every step of the way. Joshua says, right now we can't say for sure that he's planning some kind of treason against the throne, but it does look like he's manipulating the Duke somehow. Niall says, Duke Dunan. He's taking advantage of the Queen's poor health and acting like he owns Gransell Castle, all right. But what I don't get is why none of the military bigwigs are making their move. Estelle says, well, about that, what do you think, Joshua? Should we tell him? Joshua says, well, we could definitely use some fresh intel ourselves. As long as he scratches our backs, let's scratch his. Niall says, hey now, you two know something, don't you? Joshua says, we would have told you sooner, but anything we say from here on out has to be completely off the record. Estelle says, I hope you're ready for this. Niall says, shit. I'm really not going to like this, am I? But fine, say what you've got to say. A while has passed and they have divulged. Estelle sighs, you said you were ready for this. Niall says, that's just no way. Are you really serious? Joshua says, I'm afraid so. The Special Ops soldiers were behind the Sky Pirate incident as well as the arson, not to mention the kidnapping of the kingdom's greatest scientific mind. Estelle says, General Morgan is at the top of the chain of command, and even he's basically under arrest. All of the terrorist-style activities are being made out to look like the guardsmen are doing it. Niall says, okay, enough, you've made your point. Damn it all, I can't even report a word of this. The Army's censors already have their stamp all over the latest issue. They did their work at the final printing stage. Estelle asks, really? Niall says, and I'm left with nothing to cover except for this damn tournament. Hey, wait a minute. You two have something up your sleeves, don't you? That's why you're in the tournament. Estelle says, you could say that. We can't give you all the details on our current request. Joshua continues, we do, however, think that we need to make a move, just to break the deadlock. Niall says, you don't say. All right then. Since I can't do anything as a reporter, I might as well pitch in. I'll see what I can dig up. I've got a few sources with fingers in places the Guild would never go. Estelle says, that'll be a big help. Joshua says, doing anything to oppose the military is going to be a risky proposition, you know. Are you sure you're okay with this? Niall says, let me deal with that. Now's as good a chance as ever to prove that the pen really is mightier than the sword. Estelle says, Niall. Joshua says, understood, thank you. Niall says, yeah, just leave it to me. So, what do you want more information on? Estelle says, info about the Army's movements would be good, as would knowing whether or not all of the Royal Guardsmen have been arrested, and also where General Morgan is being held. Niall says, got it, all stuff that I've been thinking about too. I'll check them out. Anything else? Joshua says, maybe some background info on someone in the intelligence division? Estelle asks, huh? Niall asks, you mean like a background check? Joshua says, on Colonel Richard, Captain Amalthea, and Second Lieutenant Lawrence. If we have to face any of them, the more we know, the better our odds. Nial says, well, Nial quotes, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Estelle says, and you can bet the Colonel's working on the same principle. He'll probably be watching the fights tomorrow and the next day. Joshua asks, do you think you could manage it, Nial? Nial says, I do know a few army folks. I can't get you anything classified, but I might be able to scare up that profile info. Okay then, I'll see what I can do. Estelle says, thank you, you're a lifesaver. Get a whole lot more out of life. Joshua says, we appreciate it. Niall says, hey, don't sweat it. You can pay me back by winning that championship and filling me in on what you hear at the dinner party. Estelle says, I figured as much. Joshua says, we'll do everything we can. Afterwards, Estelle and Joshua return to their hotel room, where they retired early for the night. The next morning, I really do miss those little lullabies for the going to sleep in the modern RPG. It's like, I know that it's only a few seconds of music for a composer and it doesn't seem like it's worth the effort, but it just adds something. Just does. Anyway, we're back in the hotel foyer on the next morning, and Olivier says, well, we seem all accounted for. Shall we be off? Zin says, our match is in the afternoon, just like yesterday, so we're free to do as we please in the meantime. We can stop by and get our equipment set up, and maybe even work in a little monster killing on the way. Estelle says, oh, if that's what you're after, I know exactly where to go. Estelle told him about the key to the sewers that the Ravens had given her and Joshua. Zin says, you don't say. That's mighty interesting. I hear there are some tough monsters down there, so maybe they'll prove to be worthy opponents. Olivier says, a Byzantine labyrinth snaking out beneath this jewelled city. My adventurer's bosom strains its corset strings. Joshua says, I have no problem with that, provided that we have time. I think the entrance is just at the edge of Western Block's residential district. Indeed. Well, we did get some prize monies last time. So, let's upgrade weapons. As much as we can. Which is to say, not much. Then head west, because we are going to have a bonus episode or two. Private Datton says, I heard the intelligence division set up the special ops themselves. They scouted out and inducted some really talented soldiers for the job too. Harbour District. Unauthorized entry prohibited due to heightened security. Okay. So that's the church. Let's actually see if she's got anything. Oh, sorry. Chef's curry. Let's try that. Amazingly, through some sort of flavor osmosis, you've managed to piece out the recipe for chef's curry simply by tasting it. Well done. Baral says the west block of Grantsel is overall one of the quieter parts of the city. I put a lot of time into finding the best location for this shop, and this seemed the ideal choice. Maybe it was my long tenure in the castle, but I really like peace and quiet. Okay, well, we don't know Rich Espresso. So let's just learn that. Oh well. Right. Well, that looks like an entrance to the sewers if ever I've seen one. So, if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next story episode, which will be a time skip from the bonus episode or two between now and then. Thanks for watching.